So, welcome back to the second part of the video on MDCN licensing exam. A very detailed overview. Uh, we in the last video we talked about the reason for me starting this series on the MDCN exams and what I aim to achieve from these videos. And we looked at a whole lot of things. We talked about the parts of the exam, the MCQ, the OSCE part, and then we'll be continuing from that. And so we'll be continuing from all of that in this video. So remember, it's Dr. Tolu Ajibade bringing you this video. Hope you have an experience. Let's get into it. Let's talk about a study plan. As you can see, make a plan, have a vision, and go for it. So, I've mentioned it a couple of times in this video. You should have a minimum, no matter how smart you are, no matter how fast a learner you are, no matter how really intelligent you are. My advice is that you dedicate at least 3 months to this examination. And when I say dedicate, I mean dedicate. I mean do nothing else but this exam. When I say nothing else, I don't mean don't brush, don't eat. I mean don't party, don't travel during this period. Stay, go somewhere. If you have a very busy house, go outside of your house, go to a place where others are studying, and just study with them for 3 months. Focus on this exam for 3 months, and when you're studying, focus on obstetrics and gynecology, internal medicine, pediatrics, and surgery. You can't go wrong with this subject. You cannot go wrong because these are what you're tested on, and you'll find out they are really interesting when you're doing your focused study. There are guidebooks. There's very little books that guide you during your study period. Aim to cover these guidebooks at least 2 times each for each subject, and if possible 3 times. I did 3 times for all of my books, actually all of the guidebooks. And the first time, don't rush it. The first time could take a really long time. It could take 2 months basically, but make sure you have jottings in your guidebooks. If your guidebook is not rough, if your guidebooks aren't rough, so are you really studying? Make sure you jot. And as I meant, the guidebooks are like little key points. Yes. So for you to really understand the key points, you need to go deeper. Check videos online. Check out videos. Check out other resources, and build your knowledge on this point, and you'll be fine. So read the books line after line. Read between the lines. Pull out all the stops. Don't leave anything to chance, please. I'm begging you, do not do that. And then use other books or videos as synergies to your study. Then take as many screenshots and make as many jottings as I mentioned before as possible during your study time, your first study time particularly. For example, I did some extra study with videos, with USMLE Step 2 videos, which I found very helpful. So when I saw a very important point, instead of writing that down, because it's a video, that will take more time, and I'll just screenshot. Learn how to screenshot on your computer. If you don't have a screenshotting app, Google it. There is one called, I'm forgetting the name on Windows now. There's one called, I've forgotten. Google it, okay? Yeah, you just select the part of the screen you want the screenshot, and you just do it. So that will come in very handy. If it's a Mac, you do Command Shift 3, yes, or Command Shift 4, and you'll make a screenshot. So make as many screenshots as possible. you know. And then, because this will be very important when you're doing your second round of study and your third round of study, okay? Take as many of those, annotate as possible, even on hand. That's something else I did, yeah? On my screenshots or on my soft copy textbooks, like pediatrics in pictures, for example, which I use in studying for the picture tests, pediatric picture tests. What I did was I used a PDF reader that had an annotator. So what I did was I made notes on the book itself instead of making jottings outside of the book. So it made it easier going through the book a second time. And also on my screenshots, after screenshotting, I click on the newly screenshotted picture and then make notes on it. You know, that made it really easy for me to go back and revise. And I tell you, I'll be using many of these jottings I made for these videos I'll be making now. So it's like a lifetime investment. Okay, so you need at least one person. You cannot sit in your house and study it on your own. Forget that idea. Take it out of your head. Okay, so what you need is at least one person, and this one person should have experience with the exam. Okay, if you're going with one person, make sure this person knows what the exam is about. Maybe the person has written it before, or the person, I don't know. Make sure the person has an experience with the exam. If not, go for a group of people. If you're a person that know that you need to be very accountable and one person can keep you accountable, go for a group of people. I have friends that lived in houses with about six, seven 6, 7 doctors preparing for this exam, and they would meet every evening, go for classes together, for tutorial classes together, have study time. So it was basically the whole day focused on the examination, and so have an accountability partner, have a study partner, uh, because you need these people to practice your OSCE after all. You cannot practice OSCE with yourself. Even though I did that for a couple, like I had a partner I studied with, but I would wake up very early, around 6 a.m., and then practice clerking on my own. I was using the Clerking Secret books. I would go over that over and over and over. So before it's 8 o'clock. No, our time for clerking was 10. Was it 10 a.m.? Yeah, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. So for 2 hours, we used to do clerking. I'll talk about my experience with clerking when it's time for that. Okay, so let me just say it now. So for clerking, we did 4 new topics per day, and then we revised the 4 topics from the previous day, and then so 4 new topics per day. We revised 4 topics from the previous day, and then 4 topics from the older days, from the way previous days, like from all of the previous tests we've done. So that's like 12 topics per person. So it was 2 people, 12 for me, 12 for the other person. And we did that for about 2 hours plus every day. So we did that. So the morning, I already dedicated my mornings to understanding how to clerk and revising that. Sometimes I did every morning before I start practicing clerking, I would do my system review, go over all of the systems, try to remember at least 15 symptoms for each one. And I did that because I had very limited time actually. I and my partner, we did that for about 2 months, and it was really stressful. I fell sick twice. I had these blisters on my lip due to stress and reduced immunity. So just to make it easy on you, do 3 months and study this way, and you'll be fine. And then aim to study for at least 10 hours per day. Don't do less than 10 hours. I put at least here, because people would say, oh, 10 hours is too small or something. I showed a friend this presentation before making this video, and he was like, 10 hours? He was like, I did about 14 hours per day. I'm like, yeah, I did the same, 14, but at least I believe if you do minimum 10 hours for 3 months, you'll be fine. You'll be very fine. And this is not the USMLE where you have to dedicate 6 to 12 months of almost 18 hours per day. This is just 10 hours for 3 months. You'll be fine. You'll be all right, okay? and keep it as interesting as possible. Find a perfect mix of active reading, passive reading. Be sure to have active study, anyways. Whatever you do, have active study. And what do I define as active study? That's when you pick up your books and study for yourself. That's when you pick up clerkship topics and practice for yourself. That's where you practice all of these things for yourself without anybody interfering, without the interference of any other person. So do this, but also create time for passive study. Some people do this by lectures. I didn't go for lectures because I felt I didn't have time for that. I had 2 months. I had to make the best use of that. Videos, watch videos. Yes, YouTube videos would save your life. Okay. Watch your group mates clerk. For example, I told you I did 12 for myself clerking every day, 12 for my partner. And then listening to him clerk, it just helped rekindle the knowledge. It helped me remember all of these things in details again. So it's like passive learning, but it also helps, and it also helps you learn in a less stressful mode. And then examine, do all of these things for passive study. And then weeks to the exam, go over your screenshots, go over your jottings, and keep practicing the very volatile clerking and examinations. I tell you, so many of my screenshots came out. I remember a screenshot I made from pneumonia Corp 65O. You know, that's an acronym. I'll give you a gist on all of this in subsequent videos. And it came out in my examination, and I was very happy. I was very happy. My partners were happy. So all of these screenshots were what we were revising the night before, 2 nights before, 3 nights before, and they were just great. Okay, so don't miss out on that. Okay, that was really intense talking about the examination. Let's talk a little bit about the gist of my experience and others I've heard. Okay, my experience, I've been talking about it in bits, but let me just detail it right now. So when I realized I was going to be writing this exam, because I didn't initially want to do this exam, it wasn't in my plans, but life happens, and I had to write this exam. I had a period of about 2 months to focus on it. Okay, so exam was end of November. I had September, October. It was around September, late September. I had to do this exam. I traveled in search of a tutorial that would work. And then I realized that I had a whole lot to study. When I heard people at the tutorial talking, I'm like, okay, it means I can't sit down for a tutorial. It just means I cannot sit down for 5 hours every day listening to a teacher teach, because I didn't have the luxury of time at the time. So what did I do? I withdrew from the tutorial, rented a place for myself outside of home for myself and a friend, and we just learned and read books and practiced and practiced and practiced. I remember my neighbors thinking, my neighbors were actually thinking, oh, are these guys crazy? Why do you study so much? Because I knew what I wanted. So I just kept studying and studying and studying and studying and studying. So I'll wake up at 6 a.m., practice till around 8, 9, take my bath, brush, maybe find something quick to eat, then little breakfast, and then I go practice my counseling. I had a timetable. Yeah, that's another thing. Maybe I would put a link of my timetable if I can still find it. Oh no, I can't find it anymore. It got lost in Kano when I went for my exam. Okay, so I had a timetable. I could give you an example of the timetable I made. Had that, so I keep myself accountable. Don't just read randomly. Have a schedule. It's 3 months dedicated. That's why it's called dedicated. So have a schedule, follow that, stick to it. Make sure your partner sticks to it, and go for a partner that is pretty responsible and really pretty committed to this same goal you have. Okay, so I did that for 2 months. I used USMLE Step 2 videos. Uh, Also, but I didn't focus on that. I made sure I finished my guidebooks, and then once in a while, especially for internal medicine, yeah, I did that especially for internal medicine. I used my USMLE videos. as an adjunct, as a synergist to my study for internal medicine. And then for the books I used, for pediatrics, I used Rule of Thumb Pediatrics, which I found really good. Rule of Thumb ONG, which is great, great, I tell you. So I used Rule of Thumb ONG, Rule of Thumb Pediatrics. I used the Guide Surgery and the Guide Internal Medicine. Um, so that's it. And then for pediatrics, also I used pediatrics in pictures. I went over that, over pediatrics in pictures about 2, 3 times as well. Uh, so that's for that. And then I made my own. I found the instruments were a little contradicting in some of the guidebooks. The wrong name was given to some of the instruments. So what I did was I dedicated a whole day or more, maybe a night and a day, and then made my own PDF, documents for the instruments, detailing my own acronyms to remember the instruments, how they look like, explaining it. So I did that for my instruments. For the laboratory tests, I checked online, used this fishbone. I don't know if you know this fishbone thing. It's also very important, where you're giving you can Google it, or I'll just make a video on that later on. So I learned the laboratory values. I basically crammed the values, which I find very difficult to do. But because I was in a zone of learning, it actually came easy cramming these things, which is pretty strange. So I crammed these values, and basically I was fine. And then what else? What else? What else? What else? What else? The experience in the examination, even though Nigeria, there were delays with the internet on the MCQ day, the first day, but after about 5 hours of waiting, I had 3 hours of the exam. So just prepare your mind for the best, you know, and know there could be a few delays and itches on the way, but you'll be fine on the MCQ day. Stay calm, stay relaxed. Always assure yourself you're gonna do fine, because uh, this mental torture, self inflicted torture of maybe I'm not good enough for the exam, maybe I've not read enough. Just believe you've read, you've studied, do your best in studying, and you'll be fine. And then for some other people, I know people that actually went with tutorials because they believe they are more auditory learners, and some of them went with tutorial groups because they know that they could get easily distracted, and they need to be very accountable. And some people did that. I know some people that went to the hospital for rounds, they just go for observership for about 1 month, 2 months. But I don't know about that because exam is different from real life sometimes. And what you learn during dedicated study may be different. Not everybody in the hospital studied abroad. Not everybody has written this exam. So I would advise if you're going to do that, don't make it the bulk of your study. Don't make it the bulk of your study. Make sure you have dedicated active study time, as I mentioned before. All right, that's it for today's video. We'll be going, I'm dedicated to making this journey easier for every single one of us. I'm ready to, I've already started making videos already. They're ready to be released. And these videos, I'll be detailing mnemonics, skills, tricks, giving you, that added galvanization, that added motivation to study and to blast the MDCN exam. So I believe it's been really impactful and educative, and hope you've been able to gain something from this video. I'm hoping you give a thumbs up to this video because it really helps a lot in, you know, encouraging me and giving me a drive to do more videos like this. And I hope you share with a friend. Don't be stingy with the information. Don't hoard it. What's the point of hoarding such good information anyways? So I hope you really tell a friend about this, share with a friend, like the video, subscribe so you don't miss any videos. You don't miss any single one of the videos because we don't know where the what which of the videos would be most helpful. I believe everything will be helpful, but some information you can't afford missing out on any single piece of information. So thank you very much for this. See you in the next video. It's Dr. Tolu Ajibade signing out. Peace. Take care.